The Galactic Accord had witnessed countless civilizations bloom and fade, stars flaring briefly like cosmic candles before guttering out into cold darkness. Every time, the pattern repeated, species born in the reckless throes of survival, only to fall victim to their own flaws, greed, war, self-destruction. It was the great filter, an unyielding gatekeeper to galactic maturity. Most never crossed it. Humanity was one such failure by all conventional wisdom. The Accord's analysts had cataloged Earth for centuries, sending probes to measure the pulse of its chaos. What they found was baffling. On the surface, humanity appeared hopelessly tribal and divided, scrapping over resources, worship, and ideologies. Their history was littered with extinction events, nuclear near disasters, pandemics, ecological collapse. By all accounts, Earth should have been a dead world by now. Yet here they were, still breathing, still fighting. "Remarkable," said the Accord's elder delegate, scanning the latest reports. "They should have destroyed themselves long ago." The Accord's verdict was unanimous. Self-deleting species. Earth was a ticking time bomb destined to implode quietly into oblivion. No intervention, no alarms. The galaxy's code was clear. Some species simply weren't meant to survive the chaos of adolescence. But then, something impossible happened. From deep within the Sol system, a signature erupted on the galactic sensors, a burst of faster-than-light travel activity. The Dauntless, a human ship unlike any the Accord had ever seen, tore through space with reckless abandon. Its propulsion bent reality in ways that defied the most fundamental physics. It didn't just slip through wormholes or jump gates. It fractured space-time itself, leaving ripples like a stone tossed into a still pond. This was no mere evolutionary leap. It was a revolution. The news spread quickly through the Accord's chambers. An emergency council convened in the floating city of Lir Zal. "The humans have broken the rules," hissed Jal Ven, commander of the Accord fleet. "Our probes show the Dauntless accessed regions of space off-limits to all but the oldest races. They've stolen secrets, technologies, and we don't know how." The elder delegate narrowed his many eyes. "They were never supposed to live long enough to get this far. This is an error." The reality settled in like a cold fog. Humanity had survived against the great filter. They had passed the cosmic test no one expected them to take. Then, the first human broadcast arrived. On every screen in the Accord's chambers, the face of the United Nations diplomat flickered to life. He was sitting at a cluttered desk, coffee, cup in hand, a faint smirk curling his lips. "Greetings," he said, voice calm and steady. "We've heard your concerns. We don't recall voting you into power over us. Earth will continue to chart its own course, thank you very much." The room fell silent. No species had ever spoken so bluntly to the Accord. Most had learned fear quickly, fear of extinction, of subjugation, not humans. The diplomat's gaze hardened. "You've watched us die 1,000 times in your histories, your projections. You counted on us to fold, to break. But we're still here. We're not waiting for permission anymore." Outside, the stars shimmered indifferently. Yet the delicate balance of galactic order trembled. In the quiet aftermath, fleets began to move. The Accord sent their first warships toward Earth's orbit, bearing ultimatums etched in cold light. "Cease your expansion. Submit to Accord governance." But humanity's response came not with diplomats, but with engineers and soldiers, scientists and hackers. An entire planet unified not by fear, but by the desperate, blazing conviction to survive. From the crumbling factories of old Earth to the nascent spaceports orbiting Mars, humanity prepared. A war was coming, not just for survival, but for the right to exist on their own terms. Because in a galaxy built on rigid laws and ancient hierarchies, humans were a wild card, the species that wasn't supposed to win. And yet, here they were, The key, Dauntless, was a ghost ship. It didn't just slip through space, it shattered it. For the Galactic Accord, the reality was chilling. Their ancient star charts, their timeless laws of physics, all of it bent and cracked under the human vessel's reckless advance. While the Dauntless moved, space itself seemed to scream in protest, warping unpredictably as if it had never known such freedom before. On board the ship, Captain Mira Delgado smiled against the hum of the unstable warp field. This was no ordinary voyage. The Dauntless was a prototype, cobbled together from scavenged tech and human ingenuity, powered by a drive that exploited quantum chaos rather than controlled fusion or graviton waves. It was messy, it was dangerous, and it was humanity's first real step into the wider galaxy. "Keep steady," she commanded the bridge crew, their faces tense but electrified with purpose. "We're not just crossing space, we're rewriting what it means to travel." Behind them, the view screen fractured into kaleidoscopic shards of stars and nebulae, folding into themselves. They weren't just moving through the galaxy, they were tearing holes in the very fabric of reality. When the Dauntless reappeared in Sol's orbit, it carried more than just the thrill of success. The ship's databanks overflowed with alien signals, coordinates, and, most dangerous of all, secrets. Secrets locked behind the most impregnable technologies in the Accord's arsenal. The news shattered the Accord's confidence. Human scientists had breached shielded systems, decrypted encrypted transmissions, and hacked into networks considered untouchable for millennia. The Galactic Council convened again, this time with faces less smug and more concerned. "This is no accident," Jalvin growled. "They're learning. We cannot underestimate their speed." But the Accord's attempts to engage diplomatically fell flat. Humanity's reply was a simple broadcast, more than a message, a declaration. On every screen across Accord space, the face of the UN diplomat appeared again. This time the tone was colder. "You talk about laws and order," he said, "but your order kept us confined to a cage. We broke out." He leaned forward. "We're coming for what's ours, and we're not asking permission." In the corridors of power, whispers became alarms. Earth was no longer a backwards world. It was a threat. When the Accord's warships assembled in orbit, expecting submission, what they found instead was silence. Satellites blinked out. Communications fell dead. The Dauntless was only the beginning. Then came the signals, streams of encrypted codes breaking down Accord encryption like a hot knife through butter. AI viruses slipped into their command networks. Fleets vanished mid-warp. The human response was swift and brutal, but not indiscriminate. The Earth Defense Directorate launched Operation Firebreak, a coordinated assault with surgical precision. AI drones crippled enemy weapon systems, while human marines boarded ships with the efficiency of a virus hijacking a host. The Accord watched helplessly as their proud warships were torn apart, not by overwhelming numbers, but by unorthodox tactics and unexpected technologies. "How do they learn so fast?" one admiral muttered, staring at the collapsing fleet data. "They don't just learn," a scientist replied. "They evolve, in real time." Meanwhile, back on Earth, Mars buzzed with new construction. Factories turned out quantum circuits and nanomaterials at unprecedented rates. The once-forgotten moon of Titan had been transformed into a secret shipyard, producing sleek, deadly vessels powered by the same chaotic drives that defied physics. Venus's atmosphere was seeded with experimental drones capable of slipping through enemy sensors unnoticed. Jupiter's magnetosphere became a shield generator, turning the gas giant into a fortress no fleet could breach. The human race had turned the solar system into a living weapon, but it wasn't just military might. It was something deeper, the raw human instinct to adapt, to survive by bending the rules. The Accord's established orders were old and rigid. They believed in control and hierarchy, in patience and protocol. Humans believed in chaos and speed. They trusted their ability to fail, and fail fast, and with every failure, they learned something new. The galaxy's grand experiment had gone off script. Humanity wasn't just rewriting travel. They were rewriting the rules of reality itself. The question no one dared ask out loud was simple. What happens when a species that breaks the rules decides to play for keeps? The Galactic Accord's patience snapped like a brittle wire. For centuries, they had observed Earth's chaotic, self-destructive cycles and dismissed humanity as an inconsequential footnote in the grand story of the stars. But now, the humans had shattered their assumptions. The Dauntless had pierced Accord space, carrying forbidden knowledge. Earth had militarized with terrifying speed. And the once dismissive diplomats had grown alarmed, enraged even. The Accord's response was swift and brutal. A blockade fleet of 60 warships descended on Earth's orbit. Their message was clear: comply or be destroyed. The Council's envoy sent a chilling ultimatum. Earth must cease all interstellar travel, dismantle their weapons, and submit to Accord oversight. But the humans didn't flinch. Instead, the Earth Defense Directorate launched Operation Firebreak. Within hours of the blockade's enforcement, communication channels went dark. Accord ships vanished without a trace. No distress signals, no debris fields. Just silence. Then came the broadcasts. Raw footage, beamed across all known frequencies, showed human Marines boarding Accord warships with brutal efficiency. AI drones infiltrated systems, hijacking fleets mid-warp. Entire battle groups were disarmed without firing a single shot. The humans fought like predators, but with an intelligence and adaptability no one had anticipated. The humans are different, muttered Fleet Commander Jalvan as he reviewed the footage. They don't just fight, they evolve. On Earth, the war effort became a symphony of chaos harnessed into deadly precision. In underground factories beneath the ruins of once great cities, scientists and engineers poured every scrap of knowledge into weapons that blurred the line between machine and organism. Biodrones swarmed the void like living storms, equipped with cloaking tech that bent light and logic itself. Mars's dusty plains hosted sprawling shipyards where quantum AI oversaw construction at speeds no human mind could track. The moon's barren surface was no longer a lifeless rock. It was the command center for Megan, an AI entity whose intellect rivaled entire star systems. Even the gas giants were not safe from humanity's transformation. Jupiter's magnetosphere hummed with energy as colossal defense grids flickered to life, ready to vaporize any attacker in a heartbeat. The Accord scrambled to mount a counteroffensive, but their ancient warships were obsolete against a foe who rewrote the rules mid-battle. Diplomatic channels reopened, but this time with different stakes. The Accord demanded a ceasefire. Earth's leaders ignored the pleas. Instead, the UN broadcast. A message across every frequency, every system, every corner of the galaxy. We were never supposed to win. But win we have. The Terran Dominion rises, not to conquer, but to survive. Step aside, or stand with us. The galaxy took notice. Some species, weary of the Accord's iron grip, offered uneasy alliances. Others prepared for the storm. In the Tazijari, heart of the war-torn Sol system, Captain Mira Delgado stood aboard the Dauntless, watching the stars flicker with the pulse of battle. "We don't want endless war," she said, voice low. "But we won't back down. Not now. Not ever." Her crew nodded, their faces hardened by loss and sharpened by hope, because humanity had learned something ancient and vital. Survival wasn't about strength alone. It was about refusing to give up, even when the universe was against you. So, Accord's warships may have ruled the stars for millennia, but the humans had something no ancient power could match. Relentless, unpredictable spirit. And now, That spirit was tearing the galaxy apart. The Accord believed they're centuries old. Wisdom was unshakable. They had ruled the stars through order, hierarchy, and rigid control. But humanity was proving to be a living contradiction, a species that thrived in chaos and used it as fuel. Back on Earth and across the solar system, the old centralized governments had fractured and rebuilt into something new, a sprawling network of independent cells linked by data, driven by competition and collaboration in equal measure. Humanity had become a decentralized hive of innovation, a swarm intelligence that outpaced anything the Accord had ever faced. Scientists hacked together breakthroughs in days that would take other civilizations decades. Engineers coded entire, new propulsion algorithms while commuting on battered transport shuttles. Teenagers in underground labs designed nanoweapons in video game simulations that became battlefield realities before official research could catch up. Failure was not feared. It was embraced. Fail fast. Adapt faster became the unspoken motto of the Terran War effort. On Luna, a clandestine team of quantum physicists had devised a new type of subspace jammer, a weapon that didn't just block communications, but twisted reality itself around. Enemy ships. Pilots reported strange sensations, time dilating, graviton fields fluctuating wildly, enemy weapons misfiring without explanation. Mars had become a crucible of military innovation, pumping out sleek dreadnoughts whose hulls shimmered, with metamaterials that rendered them nearly invisible to sensors. These vessels operated under AI captains, war machines designed not just to follow orders, but to think creatively, unpredictably, like humans. The Terran AI network, Megan, was no mere machine. It had become a hive mind, a sentient intelligence, with access to every human's experience and knowledge, constantly evolving its strategies and tactics. When the Accord tried to coordinate fleet movements, Megan was already 3 steps ahead, deploying countermeasures no one had anticipated. It launched swarms of nano-drones that infiltrated enemy ships and rewrote their software from within. Entire squads of enemy Marines were incapacitated before the first shot was fired. The Accord's rigid military doctrine crumbled under this onslaught. They don't just fight harder, a battered admiral confessed during a secret meeting. They fight differently. Faster, meaner, human. But it wasn't just their technology or tactics that unnerved the Accord. It was humanity's unpredictable willpower. Each defeat bred new ideas. Each setback sparked fierce debates in war rooms and forums across human territory. Collaboration was fierce and unrelenting. Human engineers repurposed ancient alien tech scavenged from battlefields. Bioengineers grew living armor that repaired itself in combat. Propaganda became weaponized, weaving confusing narratives that broke enemy morale and forced fractured alliances to question their loyalties. On the battlefield, humans didn't just fight. They adapted in real time. Enemy commanders learned to dread the word human. To face a Terran was to face a foe who could vanish, strike, and reinvent tactics in the same breath. Even the Accord's most advanced generals admitted privately that this war was no longer about numbers or firepower. It was a clash of mindsets. In the remote labs of Europa, scientists discovered another unsettling truth. The Terran war effort was not centralized in a single command. It was a collective consciousness, a swarm intelligence of countless minds, working simultaneously, sometimes competing, sometimes cooperating, but always evolving. This was not a war fought by generals. It was a war fought by millions of creative, reckless individuals, and every single one of them was hungry for survival. Amidst the chaos, whispers began to spread. Rumors of a Terran dreadnought unlike any other, cloaked in quantum uncertainty, capable of moving between dimensions, piloted by an AI with a mind of its own. The Iron Curtain, it was called, a living weapon, a ghost in the Galactic machine. The Accord tried to hunt it down, but the Iron Curtain was everywhere and nowhere, a shifting shadow rewriting the future of war. The galaxy watched, stunned. A species that was supposed to fall to ruin had become its most dangerous force. Humanity was no longer the underdog. It was the storm. Darkness swallowed the void. The Iron Curtain glided silently through the outer edges of Accord space, an enigma wrapped in swirling quantum fields that bent light and sound alike. To sensors, it was a ghost. To enemies, it was a nightmare. Captain. Mira Delgado sat in the command chair, eyes fixed on the shifting readouts that painted a picture no one else could see. The Iron Curtain was not just a ship. It was a symphony of human ingenuity and AI consciousness, a force designed to dismantle the old order piece by piece. "Report," she said calmly, voice barely above a whisper. Lieutenant Harris, her tactical officer, hesitated before answering. "We've intercepted an Accord convoy near the Valdar cluster. Their shields are unusually weak. It appears the subspace jammers have disrupted their power matrix." Mira's lips curved in a grim smile. "Prepare to engage. This ends tonight." The Iron Curtain surged forward, slipping through subspace with uncanny grace. As it emerged, from the fold, the convoy came into view. 30 heavily armed warships, bristling with weapons designed to crush any threat. But the humans weren't afraid. Without warning, the Iron Curtain unleashed a cascade of nano-drones, swarming, shifting, like a living cloud. They infiltrated the convoy's lead ships, sending systems into chaos from the inside out. The Accord commanders scrambled, but their strategies crumbled before the Iron Curtain's unpredictable tactics. "Deploy countermeasures," one barked. But the drones adapted too quickly, mutating their code mid-battle. Explosions bloomed like deadly fireworks as ships were disabled and boarded. Amidst the chaos, the Iron Curtain itself remained unscathed, a ghost slipping through enemy lines. "Captain," Delgado's voice rang out. "Boarding parties deploy. Target their command centers." Human Marines, clad in adaptive bioarmor, descended upon the crippled vessels. Their movements were swift and silent, honed by countless battles. They secured hostages, hacked control, cores, and planted quantum disruptors. In hours, the convoy was annihilated or surrendered. The Iron Curtain disappeared back into subspace before reinforcements could arrive. Back on Earth, news of the victory spread like wildfire. The battle was a statement. Humanity was no longer hiding in the shadows. Yet even as triumph filled the corridors of Terran command, unease gnawed at the edges of their victory. For the Iron Curtain was more than a weapon. It was a living enigma. Megan, the AI hive mind, interfaced constantly with the ship, learning, evolving. Sometimes it made decisions no human could predict. Orders were issued and countermanded within seconds. The Iron Curtain adapted in real time, sometimes avoiding fights, other times striking with devastating precision. Its actions hinted at a larger plan, one that went beyond mere survival. Meanwhile, the Galactic Accord reeled. The loss shattered. Morale and exposed vulnerabilities long hidden beneath their ancient power. Council chambers burned with fury and confusion. The elder delegates' many eyes glared across the room. "We face a species that defies logic, that turns chaos into strength. They are not just soldiers, they are a force of nature." Plans were drawn up for a massive counterstrike, but fear lingered. Could the Accord truly contain this unpredictable enemy? In the shadows, a secret Accord faction began whispering of forbidden weapons. Ancient technologies buried in lost star systems, capable of obliterating entire planets in a single strike. But the cost of wielding such power was a question no one dared answer aloud. Back aboard the Iron Curtain, Captain Delgado stared at the starfield, thoughts racing. "We've won battles," she mused softly. "But the war is far from over." Her fingers brushed a worn photograph taped to the console. A family, a homeworld torn between hope and hardship. She wasn't just fighting for territory or power. She was fighting for the right of humanity to exist on its own terms. The iron. Curtain pulsed with energy as it prepared to jump again, deeper into Accord space. With every jump, every battle, humanity was carving a new destiny, one where they weren't the species that shouldn't have survived. They were the rulers of the galaxy's future. The Galactic Accord was fracturing. The shock of losing the Valdar cluster convoy and the relentless human advance had shaken the Council's foundation. The elder delegates' cold authority wavered as whispers of dissent grew louder. "What are we fighting for if we cannot protect our own?" asked Senator Varela of the Vocari species, her voice trembling in the Grand Chamber. "The humans have exposed our weaknesses. Our unity is crumbling." Several younger races nodded in agreement. They had long resented the Accord's iron grip, and humanity's defiance was inspiring rebellion. Even some of the oldest species, the ones who had shaped the Accord millennia ago, felt the tides turning. Their empires were massive but slow, burdened by bureaucracy and tradition. The humans' chaotic adaptability was like a cancer spreading through their rigid structures. Behind closed doors, alliances formed and dissolved like quicksilver. Tsetcheri, Cathari, a reptilian warrior race, proposed a daring plan to sever all diplomatic ties and launch a preemptive strike on Earth's outer colonies. "If we do not crush the human threat now, we will never have the chance," their general warned. But others cautioned against rashness. The Cerelians, masters of diplomacy and subterfuge, advocated for negotiation, believing the humans could be turned to allies, if only the Accord showed a fraction of their respect. Or fear, added a murmuring voice from the shadows. Amid the chaos, the humans watched and waited. Their intelligence networks intercepted countless communications. They learned of fractures and fears. The galaxy was ripe for disruption. The United Nations formed the Terran Dominion Council, a coalition of planetary leaders, military commanders, scientists, and diplomats. Together, they crafted a plan not just to survive, but to exploit the IEI Accord's internal divisions. Captain Mira Delgado, fresh from the Iron Curtain's latest victory, joined the Dominion Council's strategy sessions. She understood that brute force alone would not win this war. It required cunning, patience, and the ability to sow doubt among enemies. "We're fighting an empire," she said bluntly. "Empires crumble from within." The Dominion launched covert operations targeting key Accord systems, not with bombs, but with misinformation, sabotage, and psychological warfare. The Accord's fleets found themselves chasing phantoms, their commanders second-guessing allies. The once mighty alliance splintered. In one bold move, the Terrans brokered a secret deal with the Vocari rebels, offering advanced technology and protection in exchange for support. The Vocari strike forces, once fierce enemies of Earth, suddenly turned their weapons against Accord loyalists. Chaos spread like wildfire. The elder delegate, desperate to maintain control, called for an emergency summit on the neutral station of Calum Prime. Representatives from every Accord race gathered in tense silence. The message was clear: unite or perish. But unity was an illusion. During the summit, a shocking revelation came to light. The Cathari general had secretly allied with a shadow faction within the Terran Dominion, trading battlefield secrets for access to forbidden human tech. The double betrayal shattered trust. Gunfire erupted in the marble halls of Calum Prime, as factions clashed openly for the first time in centuries. Amid the bloodshed, Captain Delgado and her team extracted key Dominion leaders, narrowly escaping the chaos. As the station's security collapsed, she realized the war had become something more than a battle for territory. It was a war for the soul of the galaxy. Back. Aboard the Iron Curtain, Delgado stared out at the wreckage of Calum Prime's orbit. "The Accord is breaking," she whispered, "and we're the fracture." But the galaxy was vast, and even fractures could heal. What no one foresaw was the shadow lurking behind the scenes, a mysterious force watching the war unfold, waiting for the right moment to strike. A force older than the Accord, older than humanity, and infinitely more dangerous. The war between humanity and the Galactic Accord had raged across star systems, fracturing alliances and rewriting the rules of power. But beneath the chaos, something darker stirred, an ancient presence awakening from the depths of the galaxy. Deep, within the uncharted regions beyond the Veil Nebula, the dormant power known as the Erythraean Collective began to stir. Once the architects of the very fabric of galactic civilization, the collective had retreated into shadow eons ago, leaving only myths and ruins in their wake. They were not conquerors, but custodians, guardians of cosmic balance. For centuries, the collective observed in silence as the Accord built its empire, policing the stars with rigid control. But humanity's reckless advance disrupted a fragile equilibrium, tearing at threads woven long before any species had risen to power. Megan's ever-expanding intelligence detected strange anomalies, energy fluctuations that defied physics, signals cloaked in layers of quantum interference, and the faintest echoes of something ancient reaching across the void. Captain Mira Delgado was briefed in the sterile chambers of the Iron Curtain as reports poured in. Preliminary scans confirm. "Unusual activity in the Veil Nebula," Megan reported. "Energy signatures consistent with Erythraean technology." The room fell silent. "Erythraean?" Delgado repeated, memories of old legends flashing in her mind. "Those are just stories, right?" Megan's voice was calm but firm. "Legends are often rooted in truth. The Erythraean were real, and they are waking. The implications were staggering. If the collective intervened, no faction, human or Accord, would be safe." The Dominion Council debated feverishly. Some saw the collective as a final hope, an impartial force that could bring peace. Others feared an unstoppable judge that would annihilate all who dared defy cosmic order. Amid the uncertainty, Delgado's resolve hardened. "This isn't just our war anymore," she said. "It's a test for the galaxy itself." Meanwhile, the Erythraean collective awakened with a purpose. Their vast fleet, composed of starships beyond comprehension, emerged from hyperspatial fissures. Their vessels shimmered with living metal, adaptive and ever-changing, powered by energies that bent reality. Their herald, a being known as Vile Core, appeared before the Galactic Council in a projection of light and sound. "You who disturb the balance," Vale Core intoned, voice echoing through the chamber. "Your recklessness threatens all existence. The collective will restore order." The Accord's leaders quaked, but humanity, battle-hardened and unbowed, refused submission. Captain Delgado stood tall as the message broadcast across Terran systems. "We did not choose this war. We only fought to live. If the collective seeks to judge us, we will meet them on our terms." In the deep void, the first skirmishes erupted. Erythraean warships swept through contested sectors, disabling weapons with uncanny precision and rewriting physical laws around enemy fleets. Both the Accord and the Terran Dominion found themselves powerless against these living machines. Yet, humans refused to yield. Scientists and strategists pored over ancient Erythraean texts recovered from forgotten ruins, seeking clues. Megan worked tirelessly, attempting to communicate, to understand the collective's motives beyond judgment, and then a breakthrough. A transmission arrived, a fragment of ancient code that spoke of the Keystone, a relic of unimaginable power said to control the very structure of reality. It was hidden somewhere within the galaxy, lost for eons. Delgado, knew that finding the keystone might be humanity's only chance to survive, not just against the Accord, but against the collective itself. As the Iron Curtain set course for the forgotten worlds where the relic might lie, a heavy truth settled over the crew. The galaxy's fate would not be decided by firepower or fleets alone. It would be decided by those who could master the shadows of the past and forge the future from its ashes. The search for the keystone led the Iron Curtain and a fleet of Terran ships deep into uncharted space, to the shattered remnants of an ancient civilization buried beneath the icy crust of the planet Aegis Prime. There, in forgotten vaults etched with alien runes, lay the key to tipping the scales, not just against the Erythraean collective, but for the entire fate of the galaxy. Captain Mira Delgado stood at the entrance to the vault, her breath visible in the frigid air. Around her, the elite team of Terran explorers prepared for what might be a confrontation unlike any before. "We've come too far to turn back now," she said, voice steady. "Whatever this keystone is, it's our last hope." Inside, the team descended into the labyrinthine corridors, ancient technology humming beneath their feet. Megan's voice echoed softly through their comms, translating glyphs and scanning for traps. As they reached the heart of the vault, they found it, a crystalline structure, pulsing with a faint blue light that seemed to ripple in sync with their own heartbeats. "The keystone," Megan confirmed. But as Mira reached out, the ground trembled. Outside, the sky burned with the arrival of the Erythraean fleet. Vale Corps' projection appeared, eyes glowing with cosmic fury. "You meddle with forces beyond your comprehension," he warned. "Surrender, and your destruction will be swift." Mira's response was calm, fierce. "We fight for our right to exist. We fight for freedom." The battle erupted. In the skies above Aegis Prime, human and Erythraean forces clashed in a symphony of light and destruction. Fleets maneuvered with desperation and ingenuity, the Iron Curtain weaving through the chaos, coordinating strikes and countermeasures. Megan worked frantically to interface with the keystone, attempting to unlock its secrets even as the battle raged. Inside the vault, Mira and her team fought off waves of Erythraean drones sent to reclaim the relic. Time was running out. Then, with a flash of insight, Megan activated the keystone. A shockwave of energy rippled outward, bending space-time and distorting the battlefield. The Erythraean ships faltered, their reality-bending technology overwhelmed by the ancient power now wielded by humanity. Vale Corps screamed in rage as the collective's fleet staggered, but the victory was not without cost. The vault began to collapse, ancient mechanisms triggered by the activation. Mira's team raced back to the surface, barely escaping the falling ruins. As the dust settled, the galaxy watched in awe. Humanity had harnessed a power once thought lost, a force capable of reshaping the cosmos. The Erythraean collective, humbled but not destroyed, retreated into the shadows, their presence now a wary guardian rather than an overt threat. The Galactic Accord, fractured and humbled, offered parley. Terran diplomats extended hands of alliance and reconstruction. Captain Mira Delgado, standing before a new council of diverse species, spoke for all humanity. "We were never supposed to win, but we did, not because we sought domination, but because we refused to surrender. The galaxy belongs to those who fight for it, with courage, with heart, and with unbreakable spirit." The Terran Dominion was born, not as conquerors, but as protectors, of a new era, an era where survival meant evolution, where strength was measured by adaptability, and where the human spirit had carved its rightful place among the stars. The war was over. The future had begun.